good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. What's up, FMA Nation of the world? This is your lovely host, Marya Torre from one of the 7,641 islands in the Philippines. And welcome to This Side of the Blade, brought to you by FMA Connect. This Side of the Blade is a video podcast dedicated to Filipino martial arts from a woman's perspective because we believe in the strength, resilience, and beauty that women bring to the practice of Filipino martial arts. And of course, we want to share that to the FMA community. We'll share stories, experiences, and maybe even the occasional blooper, all in the spirit of our love for Filipino martial arts. Because we believe that together, we can forge a community that celebrates the strength, grace, and indomitable spirit of men and women in Filipino martial arts. For today's episode, and ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let me introduce you our first guest. Please welcome Aubrey Carbonel.
Hi! Hey, ladies!
Tell us more about yourself and what FMA system you practice.
So, my name's Aubrey, originally from NorCal, and I practice Doce Pares under the 9th Island Escrimadores in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yay! Our next guest, Stephanie Cruz.
Hello, everybody. I'm Stephanie. I am still currently serving in the military in the United States Air Force. I'm a captain, and I study Senator Shawali. My Guru is Mike Zichek, and he comes from a lineage from Guru Greg Out.
All right. Okay. I am very, very curious. How does the cultural heritage embedded in Filipino martial arts resonate with your military identity, and how has it shaped your sense of pride and belonging?
So, for me, being a female in the Filipino martial arts, my background is I'm Hispanic, Latina. So a lot of Filipino heritage is very connected with the Latin heritage, right? So I don't know if you guys have seen Joe Coy's stand-up comedy. I absolutely adore him. Every time he talks about his mother and his family and all sorts of that stuff, I just die laughing because a lot of it is I could connect a lot with it, right? And then when I met my teacher, Guru Zichek, who is also my life partner, I got that similar connection with him having studied Filipino martial arts for so long. A lot of his teachings had, Filipino background, which also then comes into Latin background, and we just grew that, connection. So it resonates with me with my military identity because I just, like to share that diversity that, there is strength and leadership in that kind of diversity, right? So actually just this past weekend, we had a meeting at work with the Diversity Council. And there's all a bunch of different heritage backgrounds in that council, and we're just trying to, come up with ideas to how to spread our word, spread our different heritage, and how that makes us a stronger force. Because a lot of different cultures have certain practices that can make others a lot stronger. So it all connects together into just this beautiful community of learning from different perspectives.
I like it. I love the fact that we are now more aware of our heritage, and a lot of people started to embrace their history start to embrace, and I can see it. There's a lot of that coming out right now.
Actually, I do have a funny story. It wasn't until I met my partner, Maskuru Zicek, and he came and we had a family gathering, and my grandfather from Colombia, he came over and they met, and you know, Maskuru Zicek was just outside in our backyard. He was training, and my grandfather comes up and he recognized what he was doing. And I said, Abuelo, how do you know what he's doing? Come to find out, many, many years later, my great-great-grandfather and my great-grandfather all studied a specific Filipino martial arts in Colombia.
Wow.
It absolutely blew my mind of how connected we all are in that. And just for me to have met Maskuru Zicek and just, you know, and start become partners, come to find out this has been in my family for generations.
Right, right. Wow, that's good bumps right there.
So when I was in the military, and you know, it was quite a years back. Prior to my joining, I was practicing Sarada under Bob Manalo, under Grandmaster Sultanuddin. And the cultural heritage that I, you know, that resonated with me when I came in was humility, as well as having an open mind when it comes to learning new things. So, you know, when prior to the military, I was practicing a lot of martial arts, and what resonated with me was in the Filipino martial arts was, first off, I'm Filipino. You know, I was born in the Philippines, moved to the U.S. when I was 6 or 7. But, you know, that identity of being Filipino, you know, it was kind of covered up growing up because, you know, I was surrounded by, you know, all different types of different heritage, different cultures. So, you know, it was kind of like, I was kind of like whitewashed, so to speak, for a little bit. But when I went into the Filipino martial arts, a lot of it, you know, a lot of the humility, a lot of the respect, showing your respect to your higher rank really resonated within me. So going into the military, you know, going into parade dress, you know, addressing your officers as sir or ma'am, you know, addressing your higher ups. That kind of influence actually came from the Filipino martial arts, you know, and it kind of blended into my military career, and you know, kind of showed me, you know, how to be a little bit more open-minded, being respectful to your rank, and that kind of like, and that's like that's the kind of discipline that actually has stayed with me even past my military career. Granted, I was in the military for 3.5 years in the U.S. Army. I was an E4 specialist at the time. That short amount of time, you know, did put an influence in a lot of what I do, both in and out of Filipino martial arts.
I think that's one of the Filipino pride, respect, that I have to say, that is ingrained in our culture. There should always be respect to your elders, respect to anyone who is above you in terms of rank, and anyone actually in general, even someone that's younger than you. For us, there should always be respect, and that's part of every aspect of being a Filipino. That really helped you in the military for sure, even
Oh, yeah.
without the chinelas. Even without
Oh,
the chinelas.
Oh yeah, it was always push-ups for us, but yeah, it was like the figurative chanela, so to speak, you know.
Correct. Okay. So I'm curious, Stephanie, what specific aspects of Filipino martial arts training do you find most transferable to other areas of your military training?
Oh my gosh. The first thing that comes to mind that transfers is just to keep going, keep training, keep keep practice. What my Maskuru Gisek likes to say is we don't fall to the level of our practice, we fall to the level of our training, right? So the more that we train, the more it's going to resonate you that you're gonna succeed, right? So for me, I'm an officer, I'm a captain, and this, it was a light bulb moment for me when I was in officer training school of the importance of humility. You're not always going to get something right the first time that you try it, especially when we're training and we're doing a certain capture or a certain flow move. I'm not going to get it the first time. And the same thing with military training. And that's why we train. That's why we have exercises in the military, is to prepare ourselves, is to keep practicing and to keep having that mindset that just keep going no matter what. If you can't get that move, if you can't get that disarm the first time, to just keep going. And as far as leadership goes, to again remain humble, that your elders or your senior leaders have been through what you're going through now. So take their wisdom, take their advice, and you're eventually going to get to where you want to be.
Take their wisdom and take their advice, because they've been through before you. As the Filipino saying, we've been on that road and you just started. All right, Aubrey.
So I feel like the one that resonated to me the most was mentoring. So when I was very brand new, it wasn't just Bob Manalo that was helping me learn angle 1, angle 2, angle 3. It came as a community. And not only was he teaching me, but it was also the people around me. So it wasn't just the one person that influenced my martial arts. It was also my fellow classmates in the class. So when I went into the military, we were doing combatives, we were doing bugle training, and some of the people didn't get it. And so, and this is also part of leadership, I guess, as well, in that, I took, I was like, hey, let's work on it. So every night, lights out, as soon as we don't hear we look around, we see, we make sure that, the drill sergeants aren't making their rounds, and we're like, all right, let's go. So we'd like set up the mattresses, we'd start rolling, we trained on our own, so just so we got a certain move in combatives, we were training certain techniques. I was showing them a couple of things that I've learned in Filipino martial arts, as well as my other types of training. Stepping up, like the way my fellow escrimadors stepped up to influence my martial arts. I felt like I had this inner responsibility to pass on what I learned into my fellow soldiers at the time. So, and even past basic training, past AIT, even in my permanent duty station in Washington, D.C., I felt the overwhelming need to pass on my knowledge. So I volunteered all that I can with, soldiers that were coming in, to pass on that knowledge. And I feel like that's what kind of resonated with me, was passing on the knowledge, passing on a piece of me, passing on the legacy, passing on what so that somebody else can benefit and pass it on to them, to, who they know, and they kind of pay it forward, so to speak.
Yes, I agree. Paying it forward. And I love the fact that there's that, you mentioned overwhelming, quote unquote, need to pass on the knowledge. I feel like that's everyone's responsibility, taking up the sticks. As soon as you hold the sticks, it's not just your personal training anymore. It becomes, you're holding a heritage, you're holding a history, you're holding a culture. So there's a responsibility to yourself and also to the community as well. And to be able to spread that knowledge that you have gained, that you have learned, will always be part of it. And I like that it's integrated into that military training too. I'm pretty sure they were like surprised. Whoa, where did you get that?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I can already imagine that happening.
Yeah, there was a. It was so funny because there was a moment in time where we were finishing up range time where we were shooting to qualify, and the drill sergeant was like, "Hey, we're waiting for the bus. Let's go box." So I was like, "Okay, let's go." So we started. We were boxing, and a lot of the soldiers didn't have never had hand to hand combat. So I was showing them the parry, and the drill sergeant comes up and he was like, "You fight?" I was like, "Yeah," and he was like, "All right, let's
Yeah,
fight."
I
So
do.
we fought. We were boxing in Kevlar, and I was not expecting that. So yeah, that was another like bonus to, oh, something. Okay, yeah. That's when I started showing people a little bit here and there.
In what ways did the principles and techniques of Filipino martial arts enhance your combat readiness? Mm. We've talked about that earlier, but expound more.
Yeah, that's really important. So, it's important to understand that Senator Shwali or SCW, our main principle is making it harder for our opponent to hit us, right? So our main focus is just is footwork, being where our opponent is not expecting us to be, right? Just making it harder for our opponent to hit us. So I've taken straight to heart, especially in combat readiness, is just being 2, 3, 4 moves ahead of our opponent, and especially being in the Air Force, they have that, egress mindset, and making sure that we already have, a way forward, plan A, plan B, plan C, and always setting up ourselves for the unexpected, right? And I think that that's resonated with me so much, is to make sure that if you're in a situation, you got to analyze, you got to sometimes slow your mind down. I know a lot of times in Filipino martial arts, we're always trying to be really quick, being really fast, but sometimes slow is steady, and we got to learn with our meditation within the martial arts is slow our mind down, analyze what's happening, analyze where our opponent is and where you think that they may go, so you may, go the opposite way. So that's very important to me. It's just, you know, be a couple of steps ahead and just protecting yourself and others that you may be with.
Right. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting. So it really, like, before you went into the military, you're already practicing Philippine martial arts. Is that correct?
No, I've only been practicing FMA for the last 3 years, and I'm about to celebrate 15 years in the military.
Wow.
However, I do have a lot of law enforcement in my family.
Okay.
Just being having the personality that I have, I'm very androgynous. So I'm always with my uncles. I'm always with my dad. I'm always with my guy friends, and I would box, like Aubrey was saying. I would always box with my guy friends. So I always had this, like, this energy about me. So that's why I was just so enthralled by the teachings and the principles of FMAs to, like, hone my skills in, right?
Having been in the military and then learning FMA afterwards, did that increase your knowledge of combat readiness? Does that afterwards?
No, 100%. So ignorance is bliss, right? But as soon as I started studying Filipino martial arts, it completely opened a whole new chapter of my mindset. It's looking at things from a different perspective, and like I said before, just how you know the history of Filipino martial arts and where it comes from. It comes from, when the Spanish invaded Filipinos, and how they had to be innovative to protect themselves, right? Like,
Mhm.
and it transfers to the military too, of how we have to be innovative and we have to constantly change our tactics to keep up with the times. And I feel like that's what FMA is all about, is just, you know, refining things, but then also how to do this better as the
Mhm.
time goes going.
I feel like once you've learned FMA and you said that your mind opened up and there's just a whole new perspective. I kind of felt that when I also started practicing FMA. I was like, oh, you look at every movements differently now,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Mhm.
It's like, okay, you take for there's a lot of movements that you do and then you just take them for granted. But then as soon as you practice FMA, it kind of now makes sense why this and that. So I understand why you had that aha moment there.
Yeah. Yeah. So like when you're training, you analyze your certain moves. Like, so Moscow Z Check likes to say that there's really no wrong answer. Because if you're in combat and you're in a fight, you're gonna get cut, you're gonna get hurt to a certain extent, right? But the
Yep.
training is about how to minimize the damage for yourself, but maximize the damage to your opponent. So it's just about learning how to maneuver in those areas.
So, what I feel like how it enhanced my combat readiness is the ability to focus. The ability to focus on a target. And it doesn't have to really necessarily be a physical target. It's also, and in many ways, physical and mental targets. So, with training, you have specific targets of, the angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4. And you're focused on getting to that angle. Now, when it comes to the military, there's always, they always tell you, you always have to achieve the mission at all costs. That's kind of like what was driven to us. So, in a way, like it really integrated well with Filipino martial arts in that, it honed in on our focus in that if there's a problem with any situation, there's always a way to achieve the goal that you need to achieve the mission. So that kind of opened up to a lot of different ideas. How do we achieve that? How do we go about achieving the mission? How do we go about, getting the target? So I feel like at the same, to tack on what Stephanie was mentioning, is it opens your perspective into a lot of things, into a lot of different ways of going about things in order to achieve that same mission. So I feel like, with that being said, with the Filipino martial arts, combat ready, focus mostly. But at the same time, the fighting at the same time, because we were trained in pugils. I mean, from a physical aspect, like they did not know that, fighting hand-to-hand combat with your rifle, you can also use that, you can also use the same exact angles. So when I was fighting pugils
Right.
with people, they were like unaware that there's different angles, different techniques, different ways of striking that, they were completely unaware. So it was definitely an advantage to training when I was in. So I was like so like blessed that I had Filipino martial arts before I went in, because I definitely used it to my advantage.
Yeah, so it's different for you. It's you practice FMA first before you get into the military, so you're like, oh, I'm ready.
Oh yeah.
All right. Okay. So now in your military life, I understand it can really be demanding both physically and mentally. So how has the practice of FMA helped you manage this stress and maintain mental well-being in high pressure environments?
So and so I was unfortunate. Well, fortunate and unfortunate. I believe that things happen for a reason. But I was in a fenced-in unit. I was in the old guard. As the they call it the presidential escort. So it was a specialized unit. And we did not deploy. But we had constant hours of missions involving the Joint Chief of Staffs, the president, various military dignitaries. So as far as a combat stress, that's one thing, being stateside in front of cameras, being in front of TV, that was a different kind of stress. So, I eloquently love to call Filipino martial arts, when I was in, I eloquently love to call it stick therapy. So whenever it was stressful, and I just some certain people of a higher rank, they kind of piss you off, and you really want to smack them with a stick. So you go back home, you go back to your barracks training, and you just swing that stick as if like that person was right in front of you. And that was my way of coping with stress, was just fighting more. Oh man, tires and sticks. I mean, it doesn't matter like what kind of stick. You can use a broomstick. You can use a spatula. Like anything in your hand, just swing it a couple of times until you're not as pissed off anymore, and you go about your day.
All right. Thank you, wheels. Thank you, tires.
Yeah, so there's two sides to every coin, right? So FMA has helped me in both, like with stick therapy. Like if I have a really hard day at work, I'm going to my garage, and with that punching bag, I'm picking up my stick and just wailing on it and just letting all of that negative energy out, right? So that's one side of the coin. And then the other side of the coin is sometimes just using it as an escape mentally, and to just go slow instead of hard, heavy, and fast, is go slow and kind of zone in on yourself, and come to peace and slow down. Like I was saying, Filipino martial arts, it helps slow down the mind so you can analyze stuff, right? So that's the other side of the coin, is if I really just need an escape, I would go to my garage and I would work on my angles slowly, kind of make that connection with my mind, my body, and my soul, to make sure that I'm centered again, right? And just kind of ignore all of the noises that are happening. I mean, not only in military life, but city life, mom life, partner life, home life, and all of that stuff. There's a lot of noise that goes around. So it's helped me to kind of just escape and shut everything out and quiet it down.
Wow. I'm feeling stick yoga here.
Yeah. So stick therapy and stick yoga, right? Yeah.
Stick zen.
There you go.
We're
gonna love
That
it.
better. Stick zen. I like it.
Stick zen.
Stick zen.
I
All right.
Yeah.
We're going to coin a new word today. And Stephanie, I would love to learn your stick zen, but I hear you. There's a certain beauty to just moving really, really slow. And then you also get to practice your movements. It becomes, you become more precise with your movements,
Yeah.
because you do it slowly first, and once you do it fast, it just comes naturally,
Yeah.
right?
It becomes muscle memory. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, stick zen it is. Let's promote stick zen. And of course, let's also promote Aubrey's stick therapy, like
Oh, yeah. Definitely needed sometimes. Definitely
Yep,
needed.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I can imagine you in two different tires. One is doing something really slow, and then the other is just really fast.
Wailing.
It's really interesting to watch you two do that. Okay. All right. Oh, we have to admit that the military is male dominated. So, in that level of field, how has the practice of Filipino martial arts empowered you and the other women that you met that also practices FMA? How do they break barriers and overcome gender-related challenges?
Well, it's funny you say that, because I was in a base where it was the smallest military base that the U.S. has. I believe it was about 1,600 people, and out of that, there was like about maybe 150 women. So with Filipino martial arts, it's and it's the same thing along across any martial arts. Really, it's very hard for women to get into it, and it's a lot of it, I think, has to do with there's not enough women out there to show that women can do it. So when it comes to the military, being in the military, martial arts, as much as possible, I try as much as possible to do mentorship. And a lot of it, and what I used to do is I used to tell, soldiers, wives and whatnot, and tell them that, it's very important to learn, even if not Filipino martial arts, really any kind of self-defense, because things happen out there in the streets that, you just don't know what's going to happen, and it, to me, like, martial arts is kind of like your life insurance, so to speak. It's something that if you invest in it long enough, you live to tell about it the very next day. So what I generally like to do was, I would, show them here little by little, wives, whatnot, kind of show them that, not all of it is, gender, it's not gender based. It's more like, how much you want it, and, breaking barriers. I like to say, I try to be a role model as much as I can. I show my failures as well as my successes when it comes to doing technique, and show that, even as a woman, it can be done. So, with that being said, I like to tell women that, if in fact, it's more important because a lot of crimes are directed at women. So, that being said, when you know how to protect yourself, it's a sense of empowerment. It's a sense of being able to take care of yourself, feeling that independence. So I always, whenever I, talk to women, in and out of the military, my previous battle buddies back there, I show them videos and say, hey, if ever, you come to town, let me know, let me show you a couple of things.
I love that you would always find time to mentor, and even the ones who aren't already part of the military, the wives you mentioned earlier, the wives of the soldiers. Yes, I agree. It's really, really important to be able to have that sense of empowerment and the feeling of independence by being able to protect yourself and protect the people that you love too.
Yeah, so this question really really spoke to me, especially being in the Air Force. So a lot of people know the pilot career field in the Air Force is completely male dominated. I mean, there's maybe like 20-1 male to female ratio, right? And I actually recently had the opportunity to talk to a female pilot from Europe. She was a keynote speaker in a recent temporary duty that I had, and one of my questions to her was, similar to this question, is how do you manage being a female pilot in such a male dominated career field? And something that I will always remember that she said was, I just remember that sometimes you have to remember that males, you need that rugged, tough strength, that typical male energy in a combat area, right? But you also have to have that feminine finesse and that ability to think and to analyze things. Essentially bringing the balance to a certain career field, right? So I take that and I'm like, that could work the same in Filipino martial arts, right? So a lot of the times when we're training and our teachers or we're going to gatherings, you see all of these men and just like, you know, swinging the stick super hard, and they're talking about speed and strength. But then, me as a female, I'm not thinking so much as fast, hard, or strength. I'm thinking more of precision, you know, and go and just again, like making sure that I'm not putting myself into a position where I'm going to get hit. And what do you need? You need that agility, that finesse, that feminine energy. And again, and like Aubrey does, whenever we have our Sunday training classes, I invite female friends to come out and just check it out. And I talk to them and I give them a heads up, like, hey, you know, respectfully, you don't have to work with a male teacher,
Mm-hmm.
but I would highly encourage for you to work with a male teacher to get that balance of the energy there. You know, you're going to have that rugged energy, but then you want to bring in your feminine energy to be well-rounded in that training.
I saw a yin yang right there.
Yeah.
There's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I feel like, yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's our role. We're not taking up the role of a male because we are female. Find balance between the male and the female in the world of FMA, in the world of military. As a role model for aspiring military women in the future out there, hi, for our audience, what advice would you like to give to those interested in incorporating FMA into their training regimen? And how do you believe it can contribute to their overall effectiveness as military members? Aubrey?
So I feel like, advice that I would give to military women out there is, a lot of men, and I hate to say the general aspect of men, just really people in general, because you're a woman, there is a stereotype that, women are quote unquote inferior. And, just being honest and very realistic, it's an unfortunate stereotype. It's what you're going to fight against. There's a lot of barriers that you're going to have to fight with regards to being in the military and being a woman, and also in any martial arts, to include Filipino martial arts. My advice is to just keep going. A lot of people will say a lot of things, just push through. If you want it, you want it. If you want it, fight for it. And just stay true to what you feel, and the discipline, the focus, and the heart, the mental fortitude that FMA brings to you, as well as the military training. And just keep going with what you're doing. Push through any of those barriers. Don't let anything stop you. And I feel like, to integrate the Filipino martial arts, especially in the hand-to-hand combat and, in the military, in the army, when I was going in, army combatives, in the very first two levels, they didn't even introduce the hand-to-hand combat. It was all rolling from the ground. So, to be training in something as deadly as Filipino martial arts, to include escrito, where you're dumog, you have a distinct advantage over a lot of other people. I highly suggest, training as much as you can. And that way you can prove to any of those naysayers, because you have that in the back of your mind, you have that mental focus to, because Filipino martial arts, I feel, is one of the most dangerous martial arts out there. It's one of the most deadliest. To have that in the back of your mind, going in, already having that attitude of focus and destroy, focus, hurt, kill, that mental strength already going in, you already have a distinct advantage over even the strongest male soldier out there, is the mental fortitude to go in with that kind of focus already. So I highly suggest, training hard. Just train hard, train anything, and hold on to that focus regardless of what anyone says, because essentially, people will try to knock you down just to prove their point, but you have to prove your point.
Mental fortitude. I will always remember that.
Yeah, my advice would just be, just try it. Try it. Give it a chance. Despite of what your interest is to incorporate Filipino martial arts into your daily life, into your life in general, just try it. Because let's say a female wants to try Filipino martial arts because she's interested in self-defense and learning self-defense. But she may be a little, like we talked about previously, maybe a little concerned with training with a male instructor. I would always give the advice, just try it, because you never know what you're going to gain from the training. You think that you're going there for self-defense training, but you may find something else in your training. For me personally, again, setting the example that I started training because I found out that I have a lineage of it. From my family, there's actually generations that trained, and I didn't even know about it. So I was just interested in learning the techniques. But what I ended up finding out was that this was a good healing tool for me. Not to get too much into personal details, but I'm healing from personal trauma. And when I would go to the garage and just train, I would, just break down into tears by the slightest pain. If I would get hit with a stick, I would, it would shock me, it would trigger me. But the more that I trained and the more that I got hurt and the better that I got to learn how not to get hit, it also helped me heal from that trauma and those triggers that you're never going to prevent yourself from getting hit, but you can train how you respond to getting hit, And when you get hit, are you going to just stop and just completely break down? Or are you just going to you're going to take the hit and you're going to keep going no matter what? Right. So that's my biggest thing, is just speaking from experience. And I find that females appreciate that, having a female that's been through similar situations or situations that she's trying to prevent, and how to overcome that and learn from that it really resonates with them. As far as how it will contribute to their overall effectiveness, again, it's just like you mentioned before, the mental fortitude and the resilience that it could bring to you, right? It's just, no matter how hard you get knocked down, you just keep going. And that's just going to make you a harder, stronger individual.
Anyone who pick up that stick should expect to get hit, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But as we go along, we now become, I think that we now become a better person. I feel that that's also another thing. We become a better person without us knowing that FMA is teaching us to become better that way. This can really help a lot of breakups out there. I'm just kidding. Right? You just broke up with someone? Whew, try FMA, girl.
And those
Therapy,
exes
let's
better
go.
run away.
Yeah. Pick up that stick. Let me help you.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you looking for? Stick therapy or stick zen? Which one? Pick your way.
Pick your
Pick
poison.
away.
Aubrey, you want to go with Aubrey, or you want to come with me? Which way you want to go? We'll help you.
Oh yeah, we will.
Perfect. Speaking of will help you, let's close it down with both of you promoting your school, promoting anything that you want to promote, and tell us about it.
Yeah, so if anybody is interested, I would direct them to Masguru Mike's Instagram. If you just type in MASGURUMIKE on Instagram, you'll find his page. We often have Sunday classes. We're out of Glen Burnie, Maryland. It's about 20 minutes south of Baltimore, 35 to 40 minutes north of Washington, D.C. We have Sunday classes in Noel Smith in Glen Burnie. Anytime works for you. We are free all day Sundays, so just reach out to us. Our specific style is Senator Shawali, SCW. Masguru Mike, again, like I mentioned before, is a descendant from Masguru Greg Allen, who was GT Leo's student back in the day, back in the 1970s, which he studied Pikiti Tersha, which Senator Shawali comes from Pikiti Tersha, but Masguru Greg Allen turned it into himself with specific techniques that he developed on his own. So rest in peace, Masguru Greg Allen. He's no longer with us, but I owe a lot of my healing and teachings to him. So respect.
Yes, and I have quite a bit of a list because I have a mixed lineage. So I train out of Las Vegas, Nevada, under the Ninth Island Escrimadores, under Grandmaster Henry Garcia. He was actually originally from Oxnard, California, under Ty Calido. So if ever you guys are in Las Vegas, come on through. add me on Facebook, Instagram. I also have a TikTok. Just reach out to me, and I can definitely talk to my grandmaster. We can start training, or at least just come through. If it's a visit, you guys are just pulling the slot machine, trying to win something big. You have an hour and a half of time. Saturdays, Sundays, and we do have some Monday through Friday classes. Come on through, and Grandmaster Henry's doors always open. As far as my lineage, I like to thank Bob Manalo, Grandmaster Sultanuddin over in Stockton, NorCal, who first initially introduced this to me. San Diego, California, PG Romeo de los Reyes. He taught me about our niece and Kakoy, Doce Pares. A great mentor that I'd like to meet eventually, to Jack Latour of Bikini Tertia. He's mentored me quite a bit. On and off, he's a great guy, really great instructor. He does Zoom classes. Love his classes. And yeah, I mean, I wish we had more time, because otherwise I feel like going from state to state to state to state. But so if I've left anybody, I'm sorry. I love you guys equally. Everybody's like at one point or another has influenced my martial arts, and I'm eternally grateful to everybody that I've ever talked to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you do have a whole, a lot of list.
Yes,
all the history is here, and it's so many people. Yeah,
so many people. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is our final words. I want to close it down with. Give me one sentence, short and sweet. I love FMA because. Aubrey?
I love FMA because it's taught me how to be very open with my martial arts, be able to integrate all of my previous martial arts, and to be able to just flow and show who I really am through my martial arts flow. I can express myself freely and wholeheartedly and be openly honest with everybody around me.
Stephanie, I love FMA because.
I love FMA because it's made me a stronger and more resilient woman.
Yay! Short and sweet. I love it. Mm-hmm. So, stick therapy, stick Zen. Okay. Thank you again for coming to our show. Thank you for gracing us with your presence here at TSOB, or This Side of the Blade. I really learned a lot from this conversation, and I'm pretty sure our audience also learned. We learned about showing respect, about keeping going, keep training, and just keep practicing, and of course remain humble to your elders and taking their wisdom. We also learned about mentoring and the overwhelming knowledge that we need to pass on our training, and of course being able to learn FMA to become combat ready and learn to think 3 and 4 movements ahead. I really love that. And of course we also learned about the female being learning more about the precision and the finesse and the feminine energy, and bringing that yin and yin yang energy into connecting the balance between male and female. And ladies and gentlemen, finally we learned about stick therapy and stick Zen. Thank you very much. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you, Aubrey. Thank you, Stephanie. And I'm Marya Dela Torre. I'm your host. This Side of the Blade. So now signing off. Bye.
Thank you, Marya. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
Love ya.